Hey there, Judy Who here, counselor turned boundary coach, talking about boundaries today, or what I didn't realize boundaries were. So for me, I talked about it, but I didn't really understand what it was until I created my psychological boundaries framework. And so boundaries, how I describe it, is your sense of self. So where you end and where the other person begins, okay? So I'm in charge of my boundaries in the sense of who I am, what I like, what I don't like, what I want, what I don't want, what my gender is, my identity, how I relate to people. That's all of my boundaries. The foundation of what I teach is that everyone is inherently worthy. So no one is any more worthy or less worthy based on your skin color, your gender, your sexuality, your mental health status. Nothing changes your value. And so as a visual learner, it's like this, right? So I'm the same size as everyone else, no matter what, even if they're a dick to me. This is not what we're taught in society. We're taught that some people's needs are more important than others, right? Their comfort, their status, their voice. So in this experience, I'm talking about white men who have the most privilege and power. And so the goal of understanding boundaries first and foremost is that we are the same size, regardless. So remember I said everyone's inherently worthy, same size? Some people feel like they're this size. Case in point, Disney mermaid, supposed to be white. So as we do our work to bring everyone to the right size, this person who was this and now turned this is gonna feel really pissed, like something's being taken away, when in actuality, they're being right-sized down. So that discomfort that they feel, that you might feel, is okay, because you were amplified a little too much. Doesn't make you bad, just the truth. So their discomfort is good if you're feeling angry about being right-sized. It makes sense, I totally get it, and still needs to happen. So for these folks, I'm talking about people who've been marginalized, will more feel like this because they're on the margins. Their needs haven't been named, their preciousness haven't been protected. So there's like this sense that they're less than. And so as they come into their right size, it's gonna feel uncomfortable too. Like, oh my gosh, this feels really aggressive. Or am I taking up too much space now? That discomfort is also good, because you're taking up the right size space. You're entitled to be here and to exist as equally as everyone else. So we're all on the same page now that everyone's inherently worthy. So these are the types of boundaries that you need to be aware of. So one is porous. Porous looks like this. It's almost like there's no differentiation from the two. This is appropriate when you're a caregiver of a child, okay? As an adult, our prefrontal cortex is fully developed around mid-20s, mid to late 20s. Our kids are not. So when my child comes home from school and has a fucking meltdown and tells me how much they hate me, I'm gonna feel into them and go, I think you're hungry. I think this is like school, like restraining yourself and like behaving for the 8 hours that you're in school. I think that's what it is. It's okay to be angry at me. Here, eat this food. So that's appropriate. So I'm regulating myself to figure out what my child might need. This is not appropriate in adult relationships, including with parents. So kids should not be feeling into their parents ever about what the parents need. The parent's job is to take care of the child, not the other way around. So if you're doing mind reading, if you're not asking for what you need, if you're raging at someone, this is not okay, all right? So the next boundary is rigid. Rigid is when there's space between. So one person is not able to connect with somebody else. It can look like stonewalling or ignoring or withdrawing love, that type of thing. This is appropriate in teenage years because kids are supposed to figure out who they are. And so part of that figuring out is pulling away from their caregiver and going, no, I actually don't think that's right. You know, I actually do hate you. And because of that sense of self, figuring out who they are, it's going to feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. So the rigid boundary for teenagers is okay. It's also okay for abusive relationships. So I was saying, if someone's like raging on you, right? And you're asking them to stop or else you're going to leave the room, it's okay to have a rigid boundary. I'm not going to be talking to you for a while. So that's okay. And then healthy boundary is when I am in charge of what I want, what I don't want, what I need, right? I'm in charge of that and advocating for that. And so I'm going to make a behavioral request, and I'm going to trust that this person who is an adult is going to be able to figure out what they want, what they need. They're in charge of their feelings and regulating themselves. And then we come together as equal human beings relating with each other. Okay?